Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Kabbalah Explained Simply. Today we're talking about mantras. Interesting topic. Sometimes mantras are associated with the wisdom of Kabbalah, and we want to talk today about whether mantras can open up a special connection between us and the upper force that controls our reality. Are these hidden in nature in a way that they need to be unlocked? Are there some that are more powerful than others? Where are these mantras? How do we find out about them? How do we start using them, if they exist in the wisdom of Kabbalah at all? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to say categorically that mantras don't exist in the wisdom of Kabbalah, if that's what you're expecting. But we need to qualify this. So let's take a look at it. I'm looking forward to all of your questions on this topic. Write in where you're from. Say hello. I already see many friends in the chat. Sylvie from the Netherlands, Julie from Utah, and many, many more. We'll say hello to all of you later and take all of your questions. And let's dive right in. Okay, mantras. So, mantra, of course, is not a Kabbalistic word. It originates from ancient Sanskrit. It's derived from two roots, man, which means to think or mind, and tra, which means instrument or tool. Therefore, the word mantra can be translated as instrument of thought or tool of the mind. Okay. Obviously, since mantra comes from Sanskrit, and has been used in Vedic traditions, Buddhist traditions, Jain, and so on. It's been used in the world's religions. So obviously, it's not a Kabbalistic term, and I can't say that there's mantras in Kabbalah, but is there something like that? Let's talk quick about what Kabbalah is. So Kabbalah is not like something that takes a la carte from different methods and adds it in and then creates this one master method. Rather, Kabbalah is something that was discovered by ordinary people like you and me. It was something that was found to be a law of nature that we could get into equivalence with, we could get into harmony with right now, and the people who weren't yet Kabbalists in ancient times. Right now, I am in equivalence, in perfect equivalence with the reality that you're feeling right now. That's why we feel it. All of my qualities are similar to it. And thus, it's like the perfect home for me, the perfect place for the kind of being I am. Like the fishes in the ocean, and other beings need to be in a rainforest. Say some anaconda is perfectly at home there in the Amazon. I, as a human being in this reality, am in the perfect reality for me. There are other realities. Kabbalists are those who, in a natural way, discovered something that to us feels supernatural. And that's where all of the practices and writings of the wisdom of Kabbalah come from. So then this is the question, is there something in this method that they discovered and that they have developed and articulated over the past roughly 5,700 years since the first Kabbalist? Is there something like mantras that we can use in order to achieve the goal of our life, which is to reach equivalence with the upper force, to start feeling it. So before we get to that question, we need to ask, first of all, if there is mantras, if that's really a thing, is it something like what I'm showing here on the screen right now? This is a game from, I think it's a Nintendo game from like the 1980s, and there's a modern version of it. And the cool thing about this game was that there were hidden things behind walls. You know, you would like push on a wall and you'd open up something else, some secret. And I hear from, you know, my kids that there's other games like that, like Hollow Knight, where behind walls there's secret things in a floor. You could push something and it's like an Indiana Jones situation where you can, or a Goonies, where you push on a key, special piano key, and it opens up a whole wall. And is our reality built that way? So to our topic, did the designer of our reality, because our reality is designed, it is planned, into this reality, was there built the provision for unlocking other worlds, other secrets behind the reality that we're seeing? And if so, is it in the form of mantras and or sayings or special word sequences? And if so, why would the creator do that? Why would the one who Kabbalists discovered, when they did these internal practices, they discovered that yes, there is an upper force, there is a singular creator that's operating and guiding our reality, and he placed into our reality everything that we need here, all of the flowers, all of the animals, all of the people, the planets. He put it all here in a perfect Goldilocks arrangement. Did he, in that, put also special keys to unlock worlds, like in this game, Metroid? And if he did, why? Why not make it simpler, more direct? I mean, if he wants to do good to us, why make it like this game that I need to discover a special saying or a special book somewhere, and I need to search all my life until I finally happen upon this wisdom? Why would he do it in this particular way? If he did it at all, that's the question. Okay, so in the wisdom of Kabbalah, let's back up a sec. What is a mantra? A mantra is something that someone says in their mouth over and over again, right? It could be anything. Like I could just every day wake up in the morning and say, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm harmonious, I'm lucky, whatever you want it to be. And I say this over and over again. Or it could be, I'm going to be skinny, I'm going to be skinny, I'm going to be, I don't know. Anything that a person wants to affirm and make come true in their life. So is there something like that that actually works? Okay, first of all, that will work to some extent, even if you just do those simple mantras. I'm talking about in ordinary parlance, the definition of mantra is something that you repeat as much as possible in the hopes that it will become true. Now, this just psychologically has an effect on me. If I dedicate the time to say I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm harmonious all of the time, I'm thankful, of course this will have a psychological effect. And because I'm changing my psychology, I'm creating neural pathways, right? It could cause some changes. It could cause me to behave differently in the world. And then I could get some results in practice. We're not asking that, though. We're asking, can mantras, are there like secret word phrases that help me get into contact with some upper force that's higher than the universe, that controls our reality, and that could change my life through kind of supernatural means? Because psychology and my brain and changing my neurons and then thus changing my behavior isn't really magically changing reality, right? So we want to know if there's something that can get me in touch with that upper force that is operating things. So there's something like that in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and to explain this, I'm going to bring you a quote from the great 20th century Kabbalist Baal HaSulam, where he says, even fools who think the exact thought of the sages and the same topic as the sages are united with the sages, according to the nature of creation. And this way, the world continues its correction until it is completely corrected. So that's pretty cool, because I'm not a fool, I like to think. And it says, even fools who think the exact thought of the sages, meaning those who attained the spiritual world, they start thinking differently, feeling differently. They discover, they say you only use 4% of your brain. Let's say they use 100% of your brain. Actually, they discover a completely new brain, a new mind, like the difference between how a fish thinks and how a cobra thinks, or a cobra versus a baboon, or a baboon versus you. Kabbalists get a brand new mind. Of course, they still understand all of the other parts of nature and our lives and what needs to be there, but they get a new spiritual mind and a new spiritual heart. And if, he says here, if I can think the exact thought of those who developed this new mind, even though those thoughts are very foreign to me, and I can think in the same topic as them, then I'm united with these sages, these Kabbalists, according to the nature of creation. Because yes, there is built into creation this provision for being able to rise from our reality to a spiritual reality. We still don't know why it would be made in a secretive way. Why can't it be more simple? I mean, why can't I just pray, ask to the Creator, to the upper force, and boom, I get what I want? Instead, I have the opposite results, right? Everybody knows who tries to pray, that it's not a store. It's not Amazon.com, right? I don't just say what I want, boom, 2-day delivery on my door. It doesn't work that way. Why can't it be simple? But there is, he says that there is this provision in nature, in creation, and that this way the whole world continues until its correction, until it is completely corrected. Okay, so how would I get the thoughts of sages? I need to find out what they're thinking. What if I don't have a Kabbalist next to me, holding my hand, guiding me to the upper world? Well, fortunately, in every generation, Kabbalists leave writings for us. Okay, one of the writings, which one of them is called the prayer book. It's called the Siddur. Now, usually in Kabbalah, we don't study this, and I'll tell you why, but it is written by Kabbalists. It is written by people who attained the upper world. And they probably weren't talking about exactly what it seems to be on the surface. There was probably an inner meaning to it. But it exists there, right? There is this thing called a prayer that, and I have it right here. I have the whole book here. And for anything you're doing in life, whether you're waking up in the morning or having lunch or heading to the bathroom, washing your hands, going to bed at night, there is a prayer associated with it. You could call it, if you want, you can call it a mantra. And truly, people pray. I was recently on an airplane and I was going to another country, and there were people who got up in the middle of the flight to pray. They had their prayer book there, and they said it very, very quickly, really like just racing through it, right? This is kind of like a mantra, right? Like, you know, they have in other traditions, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm harmonious, where you say it and say it and say it, and maybe it has a result. In this way, many people pray. And we're not saying anything about this, except that this religious form is not necessarily what we're interested if we're studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. Why? Why can't I just, if the upper force gave us this special key to unlock the upper worlds, can I turn this key in this way? Can I go through it morning, noon, and night, say it quickly, get through it, and reach something? Well, if you've tried to pray on your own from your heart, first of all, without a prayer book, like I said, you've learned that the universe is not Amazon.com. If you've tried to pray with a prayer book, meaning with a specific prayer designed by someone who was in the upper world, you also know that the world is not Amazon.com in this way either, meaning I don't get the end of correction, the upper world, like seems to be promised in this prayer book. So what's going on here? Maybe I don't know how to use this thing. And then it's a question, should I use the prayers of the Kabbalists? Should I use something that comes from my heart? It seems like it's more genuine if it comes from my heart, right? Or is it like Baal HaSulam says here, that I should say even fools, even someone like me who's more than a fool, better than a fool, who think the exact thought of the sages and the same topic of the sages are united with the sages. So maybe I should read what they wrote and just try to think what they think and fill my mind and heart with their thoughts. Can this work? I'm gonna first say that it can have an effect to have the thoughts that the sages say. And I'm going to show you here a prayer. So this is from a Kabbalist by the name of Noam Elimelech. And he wrote this thing called a prayer before a prayer, meaning this is what I need to read before I enter the prayer book. So he says here, do save us from envy of one another, and let no envy for others come into our heart, nor our envy of others. Rather, let our hearts see the virtues of our friends and not their faults, and let us speak to each other in a way that is seemingly and worthy before you, and let no hatred in one towards another rise, God forbid. Brace our ties of love to you, as it is known to you that all will be for bringing contentment to you, This is our foremost aim. And should we not have the wit to aim our hearts to you, you will teach us, so we may truly know the aim of your goodwill. And for all that, merciful and gracious God, we pray before you to accept our prayers with mercy and goodwill. Amen. Would that be so? Okay, it sounds like something very religious. So that's one prayer. And now I want to go to, I want to talk about something that Baal HaSulam wrote, the Kabbalist Baal HaSulam wrote when he was asked to write a prayer book. So he was a respected Kabbalist of the 20th century, and he was asked to write a Kabbalistic prayer book, meaning direct prayers that I can use in order to open the upper worlds and reveal the Creator. So he wrote something called the Gatehouse of Intentions, Beit Shar Kavanot. He found that he needed to write sort of a preface to a preface to a preface in order to prepare us to pray. And he wrote this thing called the Gatehouse of Intentions. And I'm going to show you kind of a very confusing drawing to just kind of give you an idea. So this is a drawing by my teacher that was done during a lesson on this book called Beit Shar Kavanot, the Gatehouse of Intentions. So this was meant, because we're talking about how can we pray or use mantras, if we want to call it mantras. Well, Baal HaSulam, the great Kabbalist who attained the spiritual worlds, he said he thought that before we could use such a prayer book, meaning before I could install upon my hard drive the thoughts of Kabbalists in a way that I would actually unlock the upper worlds, I would first need this precursor. I would need this preface. I would need this preparation. And when you look at this, you'll see that it suddenly becomes something that doesn't look so religious. So this is just one of like 70 drawings that my teacher did as he started explaining what was going on in this preface to a preface to a preface to this book, right? This is the Siddur. This is the prayer book written by great Kabbalists, and something which I can definitely just read through, right? And on a basic level, I am getting through it. I'm getting through the prayers. And it tells me something to do in every moment of my day. When I rise in the morning, it says, I give thanks before you, King of the universe, and so on, right? And then it tells me what to do while washing my hands, and it tells me what to do while having lunch. But before that, before I can do that properly, Baal HaSulam wrote this thing. He never actually got to writing the prayer book, by the way. He only got to writing this thing called the Beit Shar Kavanot, Gatehouse of Intentions. So in other words, before I make these intentions, I sculpt my internal thoughts toward the Creator, toward the upper force. I need to learn what's in this book. And so, I don't expect to be able to go through this right now and explain it. We have a couple of courses in KabU that pertain to this. One of them is Blueprint of Creation, where I actually go through all of the structure of the upper worlds in a similar format. Believe it or not, you could actually get to understand clearly what's written here. And there's another one called Enter the Zohar with Seth, another one of our instructors, that talks more about kind of the preface, the entrance to the prayers and how we formulate these prayers from the heart. But here, talking about mantras, this would be the foundation, okay? understanding the structure of reality is first. And a lot of the prayers, for example, are based on Psalms. Psalms is very important in this respect. So let's go through a Psalm just to kind of get a feel for how a Kabbalist, such as King David, tries to get me to start orienting myself towards the upper force. Because I need to have that in full puzzling together in a correct way in order to relate to him, in order to get a response from him. So just to get a feel for it, hear my voice, O Lord, at daybreak. I plead before you and wait. For you are not a God who desires wickedness. Evil cannot abide with you. Wanton men cannot endure in your sight. You detest all evildoers with you. You doom those who speak lies, murderous, deceitful men. The Lord abhors with you. But I, through your abundant love, enter your house, bow down in awe at your holy temple, O Lord. Bleed me along your righteous path. Because of my watchful foes, make your way straight before me. Okay, now what does all this have to do with something like what I'm showing on the screen right now? Or here's another drawing from this same Gatehouse of Intentions. Okay, here what we actually learn is not something that's religious, but something that's scientific, meaning there is something to taking the words of Kabbalists, right, and just reading over them. Some think that you can even just look at the Hebrew and scan it. This is even a less level, right? It's a level where I not only don't really process it in my heart, like it's just a mantra that I'm saying over the course of the day, and it doesn't really pass through my heart. Rather, it's something that I don't even understand the language. And then that's a big question. Does that do anything? So the answer is that we're talking about a matter of proximities to the upper force, to the inner work that actually works to connect you with the upper force. And if I'm just scanning or even just having a Kabbalistic book in my presence, that's one level, but it's a very low level. And I have here this book by HaSulam, The Writings of HaSulam. It's volume 2, if you want to take a look at it. And it has this Beit Shara Kavanot in it, the Gatehouse of Intentions. Just having it near me, does it do anything? I don't know. Maybe it awakens me in some way that I see it. But if it's in another language, it's going to have not much effect. If it's in a language that I understand and I run through it very, very quickly without feeling it, it's going to have some effect, right? I'm actually connecting to something that was created by somebody who didn't only live in my world, but also lived in an upper reality, a more powerful, strong upper reality. But it's not enough of an effect for me to become like him, for me to become a Kabbalist. And that's actually what makes Kabbalah different from a religion, is that if I'm running through a text every day, even from morning until night, I'm running it through me, I'm saying the words, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, I'm not making fun of it. This is really a normal religious practice for some. And they feel that they're doing a good job. And I'm not saying that they're not. But to really blah, 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 go through it, is not enough to, in this lifetime, while you're alive, discover what those Kabbalists discovered who wrote what you're reading. And that is actually the goal of those things. That is why they wrote it. They wrote it for me and for you to become like them. Ultimately, it is for us to, first of all, install this program on ourselves in a way that's deeper than just running through the words, in a way that I start gradually feeling the things that they felt. First of all, feeling it like a baby in the womb that starts to sense that there is a world outside of this womb, but it's still in darkness. And then to actually be born into that world. And then it will turn out that my feelings are exactly like what is written in this prayer book. Exactly. Here you have a prayer for the morning, you have a prayer for washing the hands, and I'll discover that as I am in this world going through these phases, I don't even need this prayer book because I feel exactly those words that the Kabbalists wrote. And that it's not just some poetry there that they wrote so beautifully. Rather, no, there's a specific order to what is happening. And the desires that emerge in your heart and the corrections over those egoistic desires that need to take place. Meaning each and every day, new egoistic desires emerge in me, and there's something that I'm supposed to do with them. Okay, in every moment, there's desires that are emerging not randomly, but according to an order, a sequence. And they have a correction, but I'm just not yet doing the corrections. And that is why you can actually create such drawings and such orders, and there's a whole science, and it's the most interesting science in the world because it's the science of you. It's the science of your ever-emerging desires, which is why you see a reality before you and why it seems like it's moving, when in reality it's kind of like the way film works, where it's a bunch of still frames. And when you play them in a row, when you play them sequentially, it looks like there's movement. But really, in each moment is emerging this whole thing that is called a reshimo. And I'm not going to confuse you with this drawing here, but this drawing describes about the way from the upper worlds, from this world called Ein Sof, down comes this desire through all of the spiritual degrees and reaches what is called a shattered state, a broken state, because it was once whole. It was once this one desire that was filled with the upper light, filled with all goodness, filled with what was planned for it, like a loving mother would plan for her child only good. So the upper force of reality planned for us only good and filled us with all of this goodness. Then a process occurred by which it became shattered, and we started feeling ourselves in the world that we're in, which is a shattered reality. And that's the reason that we always go for good. We always want good things in our life, and we try to make it good. But actually, it doesn't really work out so well. And in the end of our life, we reach something that Kabbalists call a person dies with half his desire in his hands. So really, no matter what kind of life I lived, I end my life with really not having realized what I wanted to realize, no matter how much I achieved. And this is because the vessel in which it is supposed to be the upper light, the goodness is supposed to be received, is actually broken. You can think of your stomach as like a not broken vessel. With this example, you have an example of how it's possible to lust after a certain food, put it inside, and you can receive it, and it's good. With everything else, meaning every other desire except this one minor example of food where you can actually receive it inside of you, it actually never enters in. And I don't know this because I keep thinking that it will enter inside of me. That's why what gives me the motivation to live, the motivation to strive after goals, is that I think, but this time I will receive. It's going to be great. But what I encounter is actually an interface with the shattered vessel. And that's what's depicted here. Here in this drawing is depicted the way that the light comes down from above and eventually reaches a shattering. And by the way, some of the prayers behind the scenes, I don't even want to tell you which ones because I don't want to confuse us and we'll go searching for them because we still won't understand them. But there are prayers that talk about how the light is coming down. They're using words of our world. And so I feel like I know what it's talking about. It might be talking about some deceitful person like King David wrote in that psalm that we just read, or forgiving my enemies or something like that. But actually it's talking about two things. It's talking about the light that comes from above downwards. And here in this drawing, we don't have our world yet. It doesn't exist yet. This is what preceded our world. This whole system comes to a shattering. This is before there's human beings. It comes to a shattering. And then there are not suddenly, but gradually, humans who feel themselves in a world that they've been existing in, maybe for generations, alongside of animals. And before them is to discover the way back up these degrees that they fell through. And so, for example, a prayer could have in it the direct light, which is what I just talked about, where the light is coming from above and where there is a shattering, and that we need to rise back up through these degrees. And if there was or yashar, which is Hebrew for direct light, coming down, we need to generate a different kind of light called or hoser, reflected light. And behind a prayer in the prayer book, it would have both of these phases. Why am I telling you this? This is because you didn't know that, probably. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought a prayer book was like just something that religious people used. I didn't want to be religious, so I didn't use it. And I didn't know that behind it, there was this whole science. And that's why when Baal HaSulam was asked, the Kabbalist Baal HaSulam, he was asked to write a prayer book. I think someone in England, some organization asked him, because he was this very respected kind of sage, and he felt he couldn't write a prayer book. First, he had to write Gatehouse of Intentions. So not even intentions. Intentions is already, if I'm praying, how do I guide my deepest, most inner force in the correct way? But before that even, I need something that's called the Gatehouse of Intentions. And that's what he wrote for us. And so he's saying I need that before a prayer book. And this, what you see on the screen and here, are one of like 70 drawings that my teacher, Dr. Michael Lightman, did in trying to explain the Gatehouse of Intentions. So just think of, we're talking about mantras, right? Again, mantra, something that I can just say, maybe install on my hard drive, my mind, pass it through me. Before I can pass it through me in a successful way, I first need this whole orientation toward reality. And that orientation looks like what's on the screen. So that might sound hopeless. I'm going to give you a solution in a second. But I need this whole orientation that involves the understanding of what reality that I'm living in. According to this drawing, I'm below this line. Above this line is the upper worlds. I'm below this line here in a shattered form, and that's why I only perceive my world. And in order to start perceiving an upper world, I need to start collecting the parts of this shattered vessel. And then I would be able to formulate special intentions through which I would feel the Creator start wielding the powers of creation, which the upper force, actually wants to give you, because those who do mantras, at least some of them, I think, want this, right? They're looking for like a spiritual kind of method that would put me in touch with the upper force, with the universe, with God, with whatever you want to call it, and turn the universe into this Amazon.com. Or give me some of the powers of creation, meaning to start manifesting my destiny. That is actually desired from the upper force. Believe it or not, not the Amazon.com. I know that's a shallow example, and I'm sure you're here for something deeper than that. And it's not that you can't turn the universe into an Amazon.com. It's that the Creator has something bigger in mind for you, for us. What the Creator has in mind, and what all of these prayers and intentions are really about, is making us like this upper force, that this reality would be my playground. As it's said, that what is the Creator really doing? Why did he create this reality at all? It's said the Creator plays with the whale, with the Leviathan, meaning all of creation is a kind of game, and the Creator wants us to have fun. Fun is kind of not the right word. He wants to give us the ultimate pleasure, which is being like him, like the Creator, with his powers. And he, like a parent who doesn't want to just keep his child small and underneath him for his entire life, like a parent, wants to gradually pass on the family business. First, you get to work in the mailroom, then you get to be a mini manager, then a medium manager. The Creator wanted to do this for us and eventually have us take over the whole business. How? To the extent that we can become similar to him. Well, let's see if you have any questions. So after this, we'll have a one-on-one, a group session in a Zoom where you can ask questions live. If you're a KabU student, if you're not yet a KabU student, you can subscribe and you'll instantly get an invite for a private Zoom session. And we'll do that for an hour. But first, let me just see quickly if there are any questions in the chat. First of all, let's just say hello to a few friends. Greg Finn from Nebraska. Kevin James from the UK. From the Netherlands, we have Jetsy. Francine from Oregon, Joe from San Diego, from Ireland we have Roberta, from the Caribbean we have Perder. Wow, just friends from everywhere in the world. It's amazing. Awesome. Great to see you all there. Let's see. Any questions? Okay, I don't have a copy of the Siddur, but you can find that anywhere. You can find that anywhere online. Valentine has a question. Gatehouse of Intentions. Does the link exist for this book? So like I said, this is in the Writings of HaSulam, Volume 2. I wouldn't really recommend reading it by a link. I would recommend actually having the physical copy. There's something different when you do, but you can find all of our books, not all of them, but you can find this one for free on Kabbalah Media, Kabbalahinfo. And if you go to sources, you can find HaSulam. And if you go to articles, you can find the Gatehouse of Intentions. You'll quickly see that you are not able to enter this book. You're not able to make sense of it. And then you're going to need my course, which is really, you would be completely lost. But I encourage you to totally open it up and see the grandeur of this Kabbalist and what he writes about and how it's almost incomprehensible. And then you can try our Blueprint of Creation course. And that's where I break everything down that I showed in this drawing and much more, break all the worlds down, find out where you are in relation to this upper system and how you start rising through it. That's what we talk about in our Blueprint of Creation course. But yes, most of our sources are free on Kabbalah Media. Okay, let's... Pacewalk has a question. Is there any use of learning or practical use of the Ten Sefirot in ecstatic Kabbalah? I think that's an apropos question, kind of, for the direction that we took this. So let's break down this question. So is there practical use of the Sefirot? Because why is Pacewalk asking this? Well, here I basically showed you a drawing that, even though it's not explicitly stated here, is actually showing the Ten Sefirot. It is actually showing, here you have all of the Sefirot, and they're divided into parts that we can use practically and parts that we cannot use practically. Let me show you another drawing. This is actually 10 Sefirot. And don't worry that it's very confusing and we can't get into all the details, but still it's meant to symbolize 10 Sefirot. And what did my teacher mean here when he said 20%? He meant that if the entire desire that I have is divided into 10 Sefirot, and some of the desire can be used and some cannot. The part that can be used is here, which is 20%, let's say. And this is called the goof of the Partsuf, the body. And that's where we can receive what's called Or Pnimi, which is inner light. Down here is a much greater part that is called the Sof of the Partsuf, which is the part that I cannot use. And up here is what's called the Rosh, which is the head of the Partsuf. And the creation, I don't have this yet, by the way. I don't have any of these things. I don't have a Rosh, I don't have a Guf, I don't have a Sof. What I have is a wide open, gaping desire that's ready to receive anything and everything that the universe would bestow upon me. Anything that the Creator will bring to me that's good, I'm ready to receive it without asking any questions about it. Obviously, I'm not going to miss an opportunity that I have every right, according to the laws of our world. I'm not going to miss an opportunity if I have the opportunity for something good, right? Why would I? I'm not going to maybe break the law. I'm not going to rob a bank. I'm not going to steal $1 million out of my grandmother's safe. But if I have the rightful opportunity to receive anything good, whether it's food, sex, family, I'm not going to say there's the world's most delicious steak on the table and I'm not going to eat that. I'm just going to eat some sprouts, right? No reason to do that. Is there? Not unless I want to reach the upper force of reality, who's bestowing everything upon me. Would I even ask the question of whether I should receive something good or not receive something good? Now, I'll tell you right off the bat, straight away, that in Kabbalah, we don't restrict ourselves. We don't stop ourselves from receiving good things, but we do ask questions about where is this coming from? Is it coming from my boss and from my wife and from Amazon.com? Or does it all come from an upper force? And that's why, even though we're giving a Kabbalistic interpretation of a prayer and what's required, the understanding that is required before you could even think about actually praying in a way that it reaches the Creator and forges some result in your reality. But there still is a benefit. We're not saying that there's no benefit to the fact that Kabbalists give us these things to do. When I wake up, when I wash my hands, when I take a shower, when I eat lunch, what were they really trying to do in that? And it's not that I walk around with a prayer book like this as a Kabbalist, but when I look at it, what I see is they wanted to orient me towards this singular upper force. It says here that one should let us be as though always standing before a great king, before there is none else besides him. Even in this, you already have an orientation toward reality that is different than you would otherwise, naturally. Naturally, I feel the opposite, that it's me alone in the reality. I don't feel a creator. And here, Kabbalists want to do the opposite. They want me to start orienting myself, being grateful. First of all, that's hard too, to be grateful to the upper force that he created this world for me. And he had a good reason for doing it. He had a bestowing reason for it. Because again, he wanted me to start wielding the powers of creation like him. Okay, so these prayers and everything that comes before it is meant to start orienting me towards reality. Now, to finally get back to the question, how can I actually use these Sefirot? Well, the wisdom of Kabbalah is first about me understanding that I'm not built in this way. I'm not, and before you can do something positive, you're saying, how do we use it? Well, first I need to take the negative form, which is I need to understand where I am. That I'm not already built in this way where before I receive a pleasure, I go, okay, wait, what is the purpose of this? Who is this coming from? From where is it coming? And what should my response be? No, I am like, it's a degrading example, I'm sorry, but I'm like my dog, basically. If we really examine our internality, when I put the food before her, she forgets about everything. And she only cares about this food, and she'll do anything to get it. She'll even bite the hand that feeds her. And I need to have a more calculated, calm approach toward reality that, whoa, wait, there's some good coming to me. And now what should I do with it? This is what prayer is all about. This is what the intentions that he writes here in the Gatehouse of Intentions, this is what they're all about. That first I stop myself, which I've never done before. I don't do this. I might imagine that maybe I would like to do it, but I don't actually do this. That I stop myself. I build the whole picture of reality, which we discuss in our courses in KabU, how to build this picture of a corrected reality wherein there is me and the Creator. And then what do I do with this pleasure? What intentions, what special intentions, which aren't mantras? Because now we're talking about the intentions that really come up from a feeling that now I start putting on top of everything that I receive. So how do I direct those intentions? So yes, there is a practical use of the Sefirot. I know you can't get what to do from what I just said. It's a longer study. It's more serious. It's a very serious study. I'll touch on what the friend asked about ecstatic Kabbalah. Very quickly, I can tell you that ecstatic Kabbalah is not what we might think. Ecstatic, from the word ecstasy, that in these presents that the upper force created for us, that we come to them through these intentions that, again, aren't mantras because they now are coming from our heart, that I really know why I'm formulating a specific reason for receiving this pleasure, and I'm directing it through creation back to the one who's giving it. That when I do this, of course, you feel the greatest pleasures that can ever be in reality. And that would be, I guess, I've never heard my teacher say something like ecstatic Kabbalah, but of course, there's the greatest feeling that could ever be in the world. It's the best pleasure that can be. And Kabbalah, again, it means in Hebrew reception. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is the wisdom of how to receive. And how to receive is with these intentions that we have to discover through the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah. And with that, we're going to conclude our session. Thank you for being with us, and I hope that you will join our exclusive session now for KabU students, where we'll answer all of your questions and discuss this topic further. See you there.